So let's talk about our first JavaScript program. What do we want to do? We want to take a quick trip to Firefox and pull up an alert dialog box and look at where we put our JavaScript. I'm going to make a separate movie on walking you through Firefox, but I want to give you these slides right now to step you through it and get you thinking about it before we go do that. Because we need to think about a few things. One of the things you have to think about is when you first start programming, you'll be shocked at how often your JavaScript programs just don't seem to work at all. It's very, very frustrating, especially when you're starting out, because anything that you do that has a typo or you don't have matching pairs of elements, anything you do that's not correct breaks your entire JavaScript programming, typically. It's not entirely true, but so always double check to make sure you spelled your commands correctly, that you got your punctuation in the right places, that your punctuation comes in pairs because your opening closing parentheses have to match, your opening closing quote marks have to match. The most common mistake, and for me and a lot of other people, is just simply mistyping stuff. It's very easy to do. There are programs like Dreamweaver which will have some built-in checking as you type to make sure that your code is correct. But still, double check everything. And the approach I recommend taking, and I've seen a lot of other people do, is you code a little bit, you check it. You code a little bit more, and you check that. You just do things incrementally and build up until you have a complete program. So, one other problem we have is with Internet Explorer. If you're familiar with all the hacks that you have to go around and use for CSS with older versions of Internet Explorer, this should not surprise you that Internet Explorer can cause problems with JavaScript programs. The specific problem here is that Internet Explorer does not like to open web pages with JavaScript that are on your hard drive. This has nothing to do and is not affected on web servers that are serving you pages over an internet connection. But if you're doing your homework and checking your files on your local hard drive, Internet Explorer will throw up a message saying, I don't want to do that. Technically, it's blocking the script. You can click Allow Block Content to see the program run, and it just applies, like I said, to local pages on your local computer. Firefox, Chrome, Safari don't have this annoying behavior. We're going to be, at least I'm going to be using for demonstration purposes, Firefox. So that's what I would recommend. Now, if we want to attach an external style sheet, we'll do that a little bit in Firefox. But we want to talk about tracking down errors for a moment before we head out to Firefox. Most web browsers are designed to silently ignore JavaScript errors. And that's actually not a bad thing because the user doesn't want to see all of the mistakes that we've made. You're just going to have to deal with the fact that your code broke and your blood pressure is going to go through the roof when it does, but we don't want bad code to affect the user. So that's one of the reasons it does that. One of the things you want to have available to you is, say in Firefox, there's an error console. Most browsers have these kind of things. You can pull up an error console and get a listing of all the alerts and errors that it thinks is in your code. So in this instance, just like it says in this alert, I forgot the ending quote. There should be an ending quote mark right after the E in quote, and I left it out for this example to show you the error console, at least in Firefox. So you can go to the Tools menu, choose Error Console in Firefox, and see all the errors that happen on web pages. You'd be surprised. Just go to any site and pull that up and see things that other people did wrong. It can be entertaining and educational just to see what other people do and their mistakes. The one thing you want to do once we install a Firebug debugger and the web developer toolbar into Firefox is we want to look and see some of the places that JavaScript pops up and all the tools available to help us work with JavaScript in Firefox. So this, when you click on Firebug, is what happens. Notice the Firebug icon in the upper right. There is a console tab, and we'll walk through this in another movie. I'll show you exactly how this works. But this is just a slide, so it's not quite as interactive. But there's a console tab in the Firebug window that pops up. And there's a command line editor in the bottom left as well, where you can type in JavaScript commands and execute them right there on the currently running web page. Very, very cool. Now there's a command editor on the right-hand side we can pull out and look at that lets you type in multiple commands and test those. So it's very instructive sometimes to just pull up a website, you're kind of wondering what they're doing, how things are working, and type in some JavaScript commands and see what's going on. Kind of deconstruct it a little bit. It's like going up to the tools menu bar and saying view source and snooping on other people's code. It's how we all learn. So one of the things you can do with the Firebug debugger in the window, you can type in code in the right hand side and have it execute. Here I've typed in an alert that will put up an alert dialog box, but you can also write this statement called console.log that will put messages out here on the left hand side that nobody else will see but you as you're working with your code. It's not going to pop up, it's not going to interrupt the user, but it's a way of getting feedback when you're debugging your programs. There are 5 different types of entries for console. The .log is just a normal put messages on the left-hand console side of Firebug. Debug basically does the same thing. Console.info will put the little blue eye icon there. Warnings will be yellow and errors will be red. When I'm putting in these kinds of statements in my JavaScript, which I know we haven't covered yet, but when I'm putting in these kind of statements in my JavaScript to debug it, I generally use console.log for normal messages to follow progress. And if I expect an error to happen, I'll put in a console.error. But those are the two that I generally use more often. It's console.log and console.error. And we'll cover those when we go and look at Firefox here in just in the next movie. So, right now, that's all. See you in the next movie.